up, and welcome back to 24 Minutes of A24, the podcast that takes a look at the A24 library 24 minutes at a time. I am Ethan Simi.
And I'm Ben Lawhorn. This week on the pod, nobody is quite the same as we break down the new dark city set neo-noir thriller from A24 Sharper. It's a lot of different ways to say new. 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 This is true. This is the new movie we're talking about. Motivations are suspect and expectations are turned chaos as a con artist takes on Manhattan billionaires. We are going to start off with a spoiler-free review because it is a movie that can be spoiled. It is a thriller and it thrives on twists and turns. So we'll stay spoiler-free for 10 or 15 minutes and then we'll jump into spoilers and talk about all the wild twists and turns. Because you texted me last night when you were watching, you were like, dude, didn't expect it to get this wild. It's a lot, man. It is like, for any of you that have been to Hawaii, it's like the road to Hana. Like, it is a lot of twists and turns on this thing. So, yeah.
It's a good time. It's fun. Before we talk about Sharper, which is streaming right now on Apple TV Plus, so you can go check it out if you want. If you haven't seen it yet and you want to see it, go check it out right now. I really quickly want to do a BEAU is Afraid follow-up. I just want to see. We've had time to sit with it. We've had 5 days now since when we recorded initially about BEAU is Afraid, and we saw it for the first time. I was planning on seeing it a second time, and then I realized that I had homework and I couldn't do that, or else I'd probably fail my classes. So I did not, unfortunately, see it a second time. But I've listened to a couple podcasts, I've read a couple articles, and I just kind of want to rehash, I guess personally at least, where I stand on BEAU. I do want to check in with you, Ben. Has time done anything to your hardened BEAU heart? Are you still BEAU'd of BEAU is Afraid?
Yes, I still feel like it was BEAU ring. So I think I mentioned it in the episode that I am excited to revisit this. Mm-hmm. And I do feel that way because I do think there's some stuff that I'll be able to see on a second watch that I didn't notice. I think my expectations will definitely be changed since I will know exactly what I'm getting into. I admitted that in the episode 2, like that part of my view was skewed because I was ready for Midsommar. I mean, I find it hard to blame myself for that. The other dude made fucking Hereditary and Midsommar. I was ready to be fucked up. You know what I mean? I was mentally
That's fair.
And then like the worst thing we saw was like vomit on a computer. It's like, okay, like I don't know. I was just ready for so much more. Like we saw a beheaded body and it wasn't even that bad, you know. It's just like, no, I was more grossed out by vomit. So knowing that now, I'm looking forward to going back and revisiting it. I still stand by my statements, but I think, you know, when it comes to VOD, we kind of talked about maybe visiting the movie, having a couple guests on to kind of share their thoughts on it as well. So I am looking forward to that. That'll probably be, like you said, probably sooner than later because of just the way things are dropping so quickly. Like unless you're Top Gun Maverick, you're hitting, you know, the month. So I'm looking forward to it, but my feelings are the same.
Okay. Well, that's good. I'm glad that I checked in. I am a little bit of a changed man. I'm going to be honest with you right now. Cause like I said, I read some articles and I am in the same boat as you a little bit of like Ari. I just feel like Ari Aster, right? He had 2 very successful, very scary films to start off with. So it would make sense for us to expect something in those terms going into BEAU is Afraid. And you know what? I am personally blaming myself saying that I went in with more expectations of Truman Show-esque, right? I talked about the second act of the movie, how it's a little bit more Truman Showy and like things are not as they seem. Mm-hmm. And the more I've listened to conversations with Ari Aster, the more things that I've read about breakdowns of the movie, the more I realize it kind of really is just what we talked about in the very beginning of last week's episode of like, it's just about a really like a kind of a fucked up guy that needs to come. Like that's literally what the movie's about, right? And like, I just don't know if there's a lot of Truman Show things to read into it. So with that mindset, I've kind of reevaluated how I feel. I ranked it a C24 last week. And do I have your blessing? Can I alter that? Or are we in stone here? Are we done? Is it locked or can I change?
Let's change it up. Let's keep it fresh.
Okay, good. I like that. Fresh. Speaking of Sebastian Stan and Sharper, look at us. Look at us. Yeah. I want to go with a B24. I'm going to do a full letter grade swap. And that's basically because I'm understanding it in a little bit different light and I'm giving it a little bit more benefit of the doubt. I am very excited to watch it on VOD, inevitably when it comes out in like 2.5 weeks, probably. It's not doing well at the box office, and that is something we'll very briefly talk about here in a second. But I think there's just that initial shock of value, that 3 hours of being tortured and tormented, much like BEAU, and walking out and saying, I don't know what that was. And now that I've had time to digest, I kind of am getting some more of the deep flavors and, things that I didn't pick up on the very first time. So I'm going with a B24. We're going to do a rewatch. We're going to revisit it eventually, quite soon, would honestly be my guess. And we'll see how we think. But I feel a little bit vindicated. I just needed to get that off my chest on the pod. I feel better. So I also wanted to say about BEAU, $35 million budget, $35 to $40 million budget, which not a lot, right? I mean, it's pretty middle ground. It's a lot for Ari Aster. It's a lot for A24 to just say, here you go, do whatever you want with it, right? At least another 35 in marketing, probably. So you're talking about a $70 to $80 million investment in this film. Made $2.7 million opening weekend. 2.7. What's the play here? Because Variety put out a very interesting article saying, look, A24 played this as a brand play. It's not a profit play. It's not a bolstering of, your box office profits and returns. It is about solidifying the fact that A24 is the distribution house that will give you $35 million to do something fucking crazy. And people are recognizing that, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that was a good move on their part. Like, I know I definitely shit on Babylon quite a bit. It's like, great. Let's spend a lot of money for whatever, getting nothing back. I think this is a fraction of Babylon's budget, but like you said, it is more than what Ari Aster's used to. I was just looking up on IMDb, and combined estimated Hereditary and Midsommar is 19 million. So
wow,
he had almost 200% of his budget, of his first two movies. But yeah, I'm curious, like, if there were people like me, not people like me, but like people who have seen Hereditary, Midsommar. It's like, I'm not into it. I can't do. I'll wait till it comes to my house. Yeah, I'll watch it there, kind of thing. The marketing, I think it was effective, but it's funny going back and like thinking about the stuff that we talked about, because it was just like, man, those movies are fucking crazy, and we've seen nothing crazy in these trailers. It's going to be absolutely demented. And then we watched it. It's like nothing happened like that, which again is fine. And I'm not saying every director has to do the same thing, but it's just like, if you've made me two steaks, if I come over a third time, I have a feeling I know what I'm getting. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah, that's a great analogy.
If you can make a fucking like fillet, like give me some salmon, like awesome, I'm stoked. My palate just wasn't ready for that. Like, we're gonna keep it A24 themed, like with the beef. You know what I mean? Like I was ready for some steak, but so that's what I was anticipating.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's a good move. I think it's like. And I mean, whatever, A24 is a studio. They made more than enough money back from Hereditary and Midsommar. Like, it's fine for Ari Aster to do this and lose some money. I'm sure they'll want him for his next project anyway. So I think it's a good move. Like, let directors tell the stories they want to tell. And they did that. So I think that bodes well for the filmmaking community for sure.
And it does feel, you mentioned on the pod last week of this kind of third movie, right? Like, Eggers and Ari Aster and these guys who take really, really big swings with their third film. They have two more low-key, well-performing films to start out. They solidify themselves. And then they kind of get this vibe, especially with BEAU is Afraid, of like, I may never get to do this again, and A24 is giving me $35 million. So I'm going to do something insane. That if, in the case of, the Babylon conversation, if this was the last movie that humanity ever made, it encompasses all of that, right? It is fully subjective to this film medium. So I think it is very interesting. I love this brand play from A24. I think they marketed it well, and I think it is going to stay in the culture as, man, A24 lets people do crazy stuff. That's awesome with a lot of money. And like, that's really what they wanted out of this, to be honest. And I am curious, much like you, what's the second life on this movie going to be? What's the physical sales? You're talking VOD, rentals. I really think this is more of a movie that is going to see a surge when it comes to people's homes, because I texted you, I was supposed to go, and I was like, dude, such a commitment. Like, it's just such a commitment to go. I got to drive to the theater. I got to watch 25 minutes of trailers. Then I got to watch a 3-hour movie. Then I got to drive 20 minutes home. Like that's 4.5 hours of like my day.
This is coming from the man who saw Babylon, I think like 33 times in theaters. So that's right. A huge comment.
I'm saying something. It's a big deal.
No, I'm with you. I do think it's going to have a pretty good life at home. I think, my experience with Hereditary is I waited till it came to like home to VOD. Like I didn't go see it in theaters just from the stuff I was hearing about, like people throwing up and losing their shit at the screenings and stuff. And I was like, I don't want to see this. Like I'm the guy who like, I watched Saw for the first time at like noon with like my windows open, like bright as shit. I was like, I can't be, I don't want to be fucked with right now. So I do think there's going to be a good life though, once it hits the streaming for sure.
I mean, you and I are buying it. That's just kind of the facts.
We'll see. I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe.
Yeah. No, I mean, of course.
This is what I want. I want one of our listeners to send you a gift of a physical copy of BEAU and see what happens. I think that'd be a great social experiment, to be honest. I think that'd be fun.
DMs are open.
DMs are open. We'll give out address for movies.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about Sharper, and I'm really curious. Maybe this is a question we can answer along the way. Did you like Sharper more than you liked BEAU is Afraid? Can you even compare the two? Because Sharper is a very cut and dry, thematically solid, twists and turns, noir thriller. It is by the books, right? And BEAU is Afraid is everything but by the books. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, if the question is that black and white, then I liked Sharper more, but I went into Sharper with zero expectations. So even if it was like decent, I'd be like, okay, that wasn't bad. Like I had super low expectations, and BEAU was the exact opposite. I was ready for my new favorite Ari Aster movie, and it didn't hit for me. Yep. So that's why I was like, that was kind of a bummer. So I liked Sharper more, but it's a huge like asterisk behind it of just like, but that's because I thought it was going to be absolute dog shit, and it was like just not complete dog shit. So yeah. What about you? Did you like it more? Like, how did you feel?
I think once I stopped watching Sharper, once it was over, I never thought about it again. I was like, yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
And then just literally never thought about it until writing the notes for this pod. And then we're going to talk about it, and I'm never going to think about it again. And with that being said, I did have a better time watching Sharper than I did watching BEAU is Afraid. But it's to what I said earlier, like BEAU is Afraid is the better movie in my opinion, but I'm still chewing on it. I'm still digesting. I'm still trying to figure it out. Sharper is interesting. It is on Apple TV Plus right now. It came out on February 17th. Can't find the budget on Wikipedia. Probably pretty cheap would be my guess. I mean, you're looking at paying your stars, and that's kind of the gist of it. And it had a very, very small run in theaters, then it went straight to streaming. Pretty much no marketing. Nobody really knows about it. It's out there. And I think this is a great, very interesting point and a juxtaposition of the A24 brand. We see them spend $35 million on BEAU is Afraid and, promote the heck out of Past Lives coming up this summer and these massive, huge A24 projects that they really take great claim in. But nobody really knows they're putting out 1 or 2 movies a month on streaming platforms, or at least close to straight to streaming platforms that are essentially funding these bigger projects. And Sharper is one of those. It comes out, it exists, and people can just watch it on Apple TV Plus. Spoiler free, Ben. What's your take on Sharper? What did you think?
It was all right. There was like moments where it felt like a really well written, like I mean, some of the dialogue, this might sound crazy, but some of it was like Fincher-esque to me. It was like, oh man, they're the fucking hitting right now. Or not Fincher-esque, but Sorkin-esque. You know, it's just like these guys are boom, back and forth. Like I like what's going on. And then there's other moments where it's like, has this become a Hallmark movie? Like what happened? You know what I mean?
Just so up and down.
Yeah. Where it's like, wait, what's going on? Like this, there were times here where it was just like, you know, we'll get into it, but there was one reveal that really fucking floored me. I was like, holy shit, I didn't I'm pretty sure I know what reveal that is. Probably, you know.
It was wild.
But then there were others where I was just like, okay, guys, like, come on, this is insane. So that's like, I mean, we'll get into our rankings at the end, but this was the most like middle of the ground. Like, yeah, technically it's a movie and technically there's some good stuff and there's some not good stuff. And like you said, it's over, so I'm never going to think about it. Like I was trying to think about it this morning, and it was just like, I know it starts with an S and ends with an R, but like, what did I watch? And that's like genuine, like sincerely. It's like, what movie am I talking about tonight? Like, sorry, I don't know. So, yeah.
Well, I'm glad we didn't introduce it as the movie that starts with an S and ends with an R. Good luck figuring it out. Yeah. It does star Julianne Moore. It's got Sebastian Stan, Justice Smith, Brianna Middleton, John Lithgow, the GOAT. Yeah. So it does have a pretty solid, like, you know, front of faces here. And it is a neo-noir thriller. So I like that vibe about it. I think overall, it is exactly what you said. It is a very forgettable, middle of the road. I don't know what movie to watch tonight, but a thriller sounds cool. Let me put this on. And I think it totally fulfills that. And if you go in hoping that is what gets fulfilled, then I think you're in for quite a good time. A lot of twists and turns, maybe a little too many twists and turns. Some very interesting dialogue from time to time. I thought there were some very fun editing techniques in this movie that I don't know, I ate it right up. I think there's one particular moment we'll talk about where the music and the soundtrack is like pulsating, and then he takes his AirPod out and it ceases. And I was like, that is sick. Like, I just love that so much. And I want more movies to do that. So there were moments where I was definitely like, I like this way more than other people are liking it. But again, at the end of the day, exceptionally forgettable, pretty okay, and a little sexy. But like, sexy was like at 2. If we crank that to like 8, you might have a pretty good movie on your hands.
I agree with you. I think a combination of what you just said is like the best way we could review this, that this movie is exceptionally okay. Like that's what this movie is. It is like that's just exceptionally okay.
That's going to be my first log line that I ever get quoted with, like on a trailer for something. It's just exceptionally okay, Ethan Sinton.
Sharper, exceptionally okay. Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like. So yeah,
it does.
It's a great way to wrap it up. Yeah.
There's some fun editing. There's some cool like split diopter shots. The director of this movie, Benjamin Caron, also directed 3 episodes of Andor and 11 episodes of The Crown. So, you know, he's out there. He's putting in some work a little bit.
Do you think that's what brought in Lithgow, or do you think Lithgow was there? Or is he just like, you know who I like working with? John Lithgow. Because honestly, like if I worked with John Lithgow, I would want to bring him every single project.
Yeah.
I would somehow get him in Midsommar. You know what I mean? Like, sorry, dude, you're jumping off the top, but like, I want to work with you.
You're the guy.
Yeah, I'd fucking, make him Thunderbolt Ross. You know what I mean? Like, give me more John Lithgow. I love John Lithgow.
100% agree. I mean, he's in The Old Man, I guess, 7 episodes of this show. He's in The Bubble, was like his most recent movie, which is, you know, R.I.P. That's too bad.
Was that the Judd Apatow thing?
That was. And like, I was going to watch that movie, and then it came out, and people were like, this is horseshit. And I was like, okay, I'll pass. Never saw it.
It's hard. It was a time I feel like when we were kind of desperate for stuff too, and it was still just like, oh yeah, I'm good. Like,
and that's why I wanted to watch it, because I was like, new movie, give it to me.
Yeah.
And then I never did it. So John Lithgow needs to be in more movies. I think that's a very good takeaway from this film. Yep. Let's talk about true cinema here. We're gonna enter a spoiler territory. We've kind of summed it up exceptionally okay, and we're gonna talk about some of the stuff. I do have one question for you. Before we go true cinema, the structure of this movie is a little interesting. We break it up essentially into character studies or character followings. We start with Tom, we go to Sandra, we go to Max, we go to Madeline, and then finally we get to Sandy at the end, the time changes are a little wonky. I thought we were continuing to go into the past, and then one of them we were in the future, and then like it got a little confusing, a little weird, I think. But how did that storytelling device work for you?
I liked it a lot. I mean, the same as what you said. Like I thought we were just continually gonna like go backwards and figure out like how did we get here? You know, like record scratch freeze frame. How do we end up here? Like I thought we were gonna get that at some point. And just keep finding out about people. So it was a little weird when all of a sudden it was like, oh wait, no, this is after the thing we've already seen. But I do like kind of the chapterization of like the story and just like focusing on each person, each main character here. It worked really well for me. I was stoked on that.
I loved it too. I thought it was really fun, and I thought it worked very nicely with the story it was trying to tell. I do think the pacing got a little bit wonky because we were kind of doing these timing jumps and diving into different aspects of people. It takes a pretty significant slowdown when you hit that third act, and really ramps up really quickly. And so I think that kind of is a little ineffective in what it tries to accomplish. But I did think it was pretty fun. Let's talk about true cinema here. We start with Tom. This is our main guy, played by Justice Smith, who did you see Dungeons and Dragons?
I have not seen that yet.
Okay, Justice Smith is in Dungeons and Dragons, and people are pretty high on him. I don't really get it, and I didn't think he was that good in Dungeons and Dragons. I thought he was far better in this movie, and I could totally see him being in more thrillers. I think he has a really good like aura of like, is this guy really telling the truth? Like, is this guy holding something back? You know, did you get that vibe from this guy?
Yeah, he was. I don't know. We obviously learn a lot about him as it unfolds, and he just felt kind of different. But I think in the first chapter, at least like through that whole montage of their relationship, like he felt pretty sincere. I was like, oh, this guy just like digs her. That's cool.
And he owns a bookstore, you know, so that's a big win.
It was giving me like, you know, my partner Ashley brought this up too, but I don't know if you've watched You, the Netflix series.
No, I haven't.
But I mean, that first season, the meetup really kind of takes place around books and stuff like that. So like there was some sort of like hints at that. But no, he wasn't too bad for me. I mainly knew him from the Jurassic World movies.
Yep. Okay.
Him being in those, and then I haven't seen it, but again, there's the trailers of the Pokemon Detective Pikachu movie. I think he's like the main dude in that or something like that. So I don't know.
I haven't seen it either, and I'm quite honestly, I'm glad I don't read books, because if reading books gets me into this situation that Sharper is, I'll take a hard pass. To be fair.
Okay. That's totally fair. My review for Justice Smith, exceptionally okay. That's what he was in this movie. Like,
I think that's great.
Yeah, it's exceptionally okay.
Totally fair, and I think that's perfect. Can I ask you then, Julianne Moore in this movie, she's got a couple of moments where, I'm a fan. Boogie Nights, love Boogie Nights, love Julianne Moore. I will pretty much, if she's in something, I'll be like, yeah, let's flip it on.
If you're not a fan of Julianne Moore, like, stop listening.
Get out of here.
Whatever you need, man. Like, we don't need you here. Like, Julianne Moore is amazing.
She's the queen. There was one moment in particular, we'll get to it, but I was like, uh-oh, we're doing a little overacting. I don't know if I like this. Exceptionally okay, or was she better?
I think she was good, but it felt like that take was like, let's do one for fun. And she's like, okay, I'll go nuts, you know. And then the director's just like, yeah, let's use that one. And I think, she was just like, oh no, that I was like going over the top on purpose. Like, I didn't actually think you'd put that in the movie, because it just felt like there's definitely one that's toned down just a little bit. That's a pretty powerful scene. But this one, it was just like community theater playing to the back of the room. It's like, what are you doing? Like, pull it back, dial it back, you know?
There were a few moments where I was like laughing, and Molly came in because I was watching it in my office, and Molly came in and she's like, you're laughing at this movie? And I was like, yeah, it's kind of funny. There are some moments where like, if you don't do the buy-in, especially in like these overacting moments, you're like, this is some really good comedy stuff. So again, I stand by it. Exceptionally okay. Tom, the first time he meets Sandra, they meet in the bookstore. They start kissing. We get this really sexy jazz needle drop, which I just wanted to throw in here. I think it was a great tone setter for the movie. And I remember watching it, and I was like, okay, this is probably going to be kind of fun. I'm kind of excited.
Yeah, I think I felt that way too. And then with that montage, and I was having watched the trailer and knowing a little bit of what was going to happen to, some extent, it did make this opening act really interesting. So it's like, oh, okay, like, is this for real? Or is like, I don't know what's going on here, but they did set the tone pretty well of like, not quite like an erotic thriller, but like it was on its way there.
I think it's interesting too, because next week I'm covering A Most Violent Year. We're going to revisit that. You're going to be gone. Alden Diaz coming back to talk about that movie. And while I think that movie is better than Sharper, I think it still falls under this umbrella of like, it's not quite there. Like you had a lot of bones and it looked like it was shaping up pretty good. And it just didn't quite cross the finish line. I think Sharper, is kind of a similar boat where like you're right. Like it felt like, okay, cool. We could be getting along with an erotic thriller here. We could be getting really dark really fast. And it just didn't necessarily take any of those turns. Then we get Sandra and Tom banging on her door turns into like the score. Again, just like shout out editing squad on this one.
So
it was good. It was really fun. And that was pretty cool. And then we get this parole officer scene. This is where we're introduced into Sebastian Stan. I'm sorry, but like he's in his Patrick Bateman era, and I'm just loving every second of it.
Yeah, no, that was a great scene. It was a great introduction to his character for sure. I mean, just the reveal too of him going to his glove box and just like grabbing the next watch. You're like, oh yeah, no, he's not real at all. Like it was so cool, and just playing it well, just knowing when someone might call your bluff and when to pull back and just be like, all right, you know what? I am drunk. I'm out of here. Sorry. And just, you've set the bait a little bit and it worked.
Yeah, it really did work. I thought that was pretty fun. And then we get, I wanted to call this one out. We get this Leo conversation, which I thought was really funny because any movie that talks about movies, I just feel like is talking to me. And I'm like, oh, you get it. Like movies are great. This is fun. And it's Max and Sandra talking about Leonardo DiCaprio, talking about Titanic. And Max says that Leo has never been better than Titanic. And then he goes on to say he's never seen the movie. So we lose some credibility. But
yeah.
I have to ask your take. Leo, what's our A20, like what's our top echelon Leo performance? Is it Titanic? Was Max right?
I mean, objectively, yeah. Like that's Leo's peak without a doubt. Like, is that my favorite performance of his? No. Like, would it make my Rushmore Mountain, like we do on the other pod? Like, probably. But I mean, he's done so many great performances. Like, I'm a Baz Luhrmann dude, so his Romeo and Juliet, like, I'm here for that 100%. Like, obviously, Django is fantastic. Yep. I feel like Catch Me If You Can is kind of underrated to some extent. Like, it just doesn't get talked about enough, both for Hanks and Leo and Spielberg. Like, it's weird we have these three like behemoth giant people in Hollywood, and it's just like, not that people don't like it, but it just doesn't get talked about a lot. So I don't know. It's objectively he's never been better than that because he just like took over the world. But I think he's done better stuff since then.
Hard agree. I think you summed it up perfectly. I did see Titanic in theaters when it kind of came out for like the 25th anniversary or whatever it was. And I mean, I was in tears by the end, man. Leo is special in that movie. And even now you can totally realize it. I personally like Wolf of Wall Street. Like, I know that's a really hated on movie now because it's so film bro and like everybody adopted it and now people hate it because they think it's cool. I mean, that scene when he yells he's not fucking leaving, it's iconic for a reason. It's really good, really, really good, Leo. Okay, so
that's you with your love for Wolf of Wall Street. Like, I'm not going anywhere.
I'm not fucking leaving.
I'm not leaving.
People are like, what are your Scorsese rankings? And I'm like, Wolf of Wall Street. They're like, get out of here. I'm like, I'm not fucking leaving. No, I'm not leaving. So yeah, that was a fun scene. So Max ended up being right. Go Sebastian Stan. Look at you go. We get a montage of Max training Sandy. Couple montages in this movie.
Yeah.
I love a good montage. And this was pretty good, man.
Dude, yes, 100%. Like, it was so well done. It reminded me, I don't know if you've seen the movie Hannah.
No, I think I've heard of it, though.
Oh, man, it is like, It's with our other queen, Saoirse Ronan.
Oh, gotta love it.
And it's like she gets trained by her dad, who I'm looking up right now. I know
it's not the show. It's not the show on Amazon Prime, right?
No. Oh wait, Hannah, like that's based on it though.
2011. Okay, I see.
Yeah,
this.
Kate Blanchett, another queen.
Wow.
Eric Bana plays her dad, but he like basically trains her to just kind of be Jason Bourne, I guess. You know what I mean? Like for lack of a better term,
Sick.
there. It's just. So when I was watching this, I was like, oh, this is awesome. You know, like I don't want to sound like that person, like, it got brought up on that Big Picture pod with, about BEAU. He's like the person who's only seen Boss Baby. He's like, this is giving me real Boss Baby vibes. But like, I felt like that when I was watching. It's like, man, it's giving me real Hannah vibes. Like, like this is the only movie I've ever seen, you know, but it's like, it actually kind of is like, I highly recommend Hannah. I even brought that up as we were watching. I was like, I hope Ethan picks some sort of like training montage movies or something like that. Yeah. You know, I was like, I'm Hannah 100%. I'm talking about that. So I'm taking my time. This is my platform. Go watch Hannah. It fucking rips, in the words of Ethan Simi.
Hell yeah, brother. It fucking rips. I love to hear
rips.
it. I've got to watch Hannah, and one of our A1 acts eventually does need to be training montages, because that is like, there are certain things that we're getting in movies now where it's just like, let's do more of this. Like, let's just get back to the 90s, get back to the early aughts where we were just making like bangers, you know? And training montage, one of those things where it's like, put this in your movie and it's going to be at least be exceptionally okay. So I feel like that's a big win. Got to see Hannah. The Boss Baby comment. And then the other comment that he makes on that pod, where he's like, we're living in a time, like in a film watching era, where the most liked Letterboxd review of all time is for Joker, and it's just this guy that said that happened to my buddy Eric one time, or like whatever. I was running on a treadmill while I was listening to that, and I literally laughed, and I'm like running, and I thought it was so hilarious.
It really is. It's one of the best reviews ever. It's like up there with anything Roger Ebert ever did.
Oh my God. Our boy Raj. Okay, we've got the montage. We've got the first con in the hotel room. This is where we really start to understand, okay, Max is training Sandra, and they're starting to con people. She is tasked with getting a guy in a hotel bar to take her back to his room. She does it. Max, Sebastian Stan's character, comes banging on the door, yelling at her, starts freaking out. They convince the guy, hey, we need to use your room to calm down, which, like, just brief call out, this guy's a fucking moron. Like, don't give your room to two people that are freaking the fuck out. Tell them to get outside your room, right? Like,
hey, my crazy ex-boyfriend's here. Give us half an hour and like, we'll be out of here. It's like, what? No, like, that's insane.
It's absolutely ludicrous. And so the guy just lets him go. They do it. They pull off the con. They start hustling all of his stuff, and I'm pretty sure that they have sex. I mean, they start making out, and there is something there, because obviously we get to the end. Sandra very emotionally invested in Max, and Max couldn't care less. So that's that scene. I mentioned the AirPod needle drop. I love that. If that shows up on YouTube, I'm just going to link that clip like to my Twitter and tweet it almost every day, because I'm like, this is how movies should be done.
Yeah, I love a good diegetic like music cue, like in a movie, in a show, whatever. Like, you know, again, not to make that dumb, this give me real Boss Baby vibes, but it's like Kendall Roy in Succession. You know what I mean? Like,
love it,
right? I mean, he's like amping himself up, whatever, and it was awesome.
Today's the fucking day. We're gonna do this. Today's the day. Okay.
I'm just here to say, yo.
I'm just here to say, fuck the patriarchy. Okay, so are we digressing into a Succession Kendall quote pod?
This is a quote off. I think it is.
That you know, in the words of the most recent episode of Succession, that didn't go to plan, but maybe we can spin it. Dude. Then now we get the real twist. This is the big one. Is this the big twist you were talking about, Ben?
100%.
Okay. 100%. I'm going to let you steer the boat on this one. You give us the go.
Okay. So I was honestly on IMDb, like looking up ages of everybody as this happened.
Okay.
So I'm like, how old is John Lithgow versus Julianne Moore? There's a 15-year difference there. You know, it's like,
yeah.
okay.
Can you set the relationship stage real quick? Because we have not gone over that. And I feel like it's fairly important, at least for this twist.
Yeah. So Sebastian Stan is Julianne Moore's, is it stepson or son? I forget how it gets pitched, you know, but
yeah, one of the
it's
two.
her son. And she is now with John Lithgow, who's like this billionaire. So Sebastian Stan shows up to the party and, you know, talks with her and just starts freaking out. Like, you can never be alone. You're always with someone, like all that kind of, that dynamic of them just kind of going after it. And him obviously just hating whoever she dates after his dad is like, that was what we're given here. And I was also, so as that's happening, I'm also curious, is like, man, could she be his mom? Like, that's crazy. And she could, like, they're 22 years different.
Oh, wow.
You know? So like, okay, so yeah, 22 years old definitely could be his mom. Literally, as that happens, like we go to the next scene where she straddles him and like, give me what I want. I was like, what the fuck is happening right now? Like, I was blown away. I did not see that coming at all. Like, that's the one thing I will remember from this movie. It was like, they got me. I genuinely had no idea. I had no clue that was coming. And it worked. And then it was just like, holy shit. Like, when you think, you know, it's kind of, that might have been the last one that really worked for me, but it's kind of like the sleight of hand, like, look this direction, but this is going to happen. And then suddenly it's like, they're the con team together. He's not the con man. They're like partners. It's like, oh, fuck. Okay. Whoa. I did not, like, this is taken on a whole nother level here. And that's just like, my brain kind of melted when that happened. It's like, all right, this is a different movie than I thought. And, you know, just kind of like sat up in my seat and like, all right, cool. I'm here. Let's do this. I'm ready.
That was definitely the twist peak of the film. And that was, much like you, I wrote down in my notes, all caps, Max and Mom start making out, ? It just happened so quickly. And I think that's why it was so effective, is like, cool. Max is the con man. We know this. And now he's got some family relationship, you know, drama dynamics, and we're invested in that, but it's kind of a separate deal. And then we merged the two and we got them together. Sebastian Stan, incredibly good looking. Julianne Moore, exceptionally beautiful, and just starts making out. And this is that big, like, erotic thriller moment where you're like, oh, this could make for a really good, like, erotic thriller duo where things just get like really dark and weird and like kind of mixed around. And they have that really, I think, pretty effective dialogue of like, why do you like me? Because I give you what you want, or because you give me what I want. And it really sets the tone of what their relationship is. And I was flabbergasted, honestly. I had no clue this was coming.
Well, before that too, I think it's when he has like the cop, right, that like busts him for selling drugs or something.
Yeah.
When John Lithgow and Julianne Moore come home, you know, and it's like, hey, and John Lithgow's trying to pay him off, whatever. Then Julianne Moore, like, we're just watching her kind of put everything together. It's like, oh, no, he's doing this so he gets some money from my partner, whatever. That's not actually a real cop. And she plays it perfectly. That's where I'm just like, she's a wonderful actor. Like, she did such a good job there. And, you know, you're watching her as Mom, just like, oh, I've seen him do this before. Yeah. Nope, I'm calling this out. We're going to handle this, whatever. It's like, oh, okay, cool. So then to have that go on later on, it's like, no, wait, she fucking knew the cop was going to be there. Like, she knows the dude, you know, it's just like, that's when this is the peak of the movie for me, is this whole sequence here. That's when I was like, cool. If we're on this trajectory, then this is going to be a fucking banger. Like, I'm here for it.
100%. And I think that takes place about halfway through the movie. Something like that, yeah. And I will say, I think it's just over 2 hours. I think or just under 2 hours. It's right around that 2 hour mark of like a total runtime. And if you were to chop like 25 minutes from it and you were able to keep that pace from that hour mark when this does transpire, I think you have a really good movie on your hands. I think you have a great, real tight knit, fun, twisty movie. But I do think it ends up getting pretty convoluted with all of the twists and turns and trying to one up what happened before. And there's a couple moments coming up that we'll talk about. Max gets paid basically. John Lithgow's character is like, look, I'll give you 60 G's a month to just fucking disappear. Get the fuck out of here. Your mom doesn't like you. Get out of here, which is part of their con, right? Like they're trying to get paid. He does get paid, and their plan is essentially, hey, let's run away together. Max and his lover. She was never not his mom, right?
No, not at all.
Okay,
otherwise,
great.
this is becoming a really different movie.
Very strange.
But he does tell John Lithgow, he's like, I want a year up front in cash.
Yep.
So he's got $720,000 like in that duffel bag.
And he tries to pay him monthly, and he's like, no, I'm not paying taxes. I'm not paying for an accountant. Like, get out of here. Pretty smart on Max's end, really. Yeah. So they head to the bar. They meet and they discuss what their plans are. But Max dances. And it is very smooth, and he dances with Julianne Moore, and it's kind of a vibe for like 30 seconds. We're like, this movie's pretty good.
All three of them. I mean, Julianne Moore cuts loose, like she's got some moves, like, and their friend that shows up too, like they're all having a good time. No doubt.
They are, and I think they knew. I think they were in on it. Like they were like, that we've peaked. That's the end. That's the movie, and then from there, not so great. Then we get Madeline. It's Madeline, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Then we get Madeline's character. This is where I feel like the movie kind of starts to fall apart, because we do get this like future time jump where we're going into Julianne Moore's character, and John Lithgow has died. He has somehow passed away. She inherits $9.2 billion. And Tom, who we meet in the very beginning, is in fact John Lithgow's son, who is set to inherit his illustrious amounts of cash.
Yeah.
And instead it goes to Julianne Moore, which was always part of the con, and that's kind of like how we start to learn things. Ben, if you got $9.2 billion tomorrow, what's the first thing you buy?
Wow.
Go and buy like a donut or something and pay like $1,000 in cash for a donut?
I would open up a Round Table pizza franchise. Because I just need one by me. I need to have that pizza when I'm not in California and Oregon and Las Vegas. I need another one in Utah. So that's my off the cuff answer. Give me Round Table here.
I respect that. Opening up like a chain of what you really like. In that vein, I would open up a Quiznos in North Portland. Like, just let's revamp the whole Quiznos structure, and I would like to own a bunch of them and have the best sandwiches of my life every day. I think
maybe it's like great. A Richie Rich thing where you buy a mansion, but like in the mansion is, the Quiznos or is Round Table. So they have like Taco Bell or McDonald's or something like that in that movie and Richie Rich. Like,
genius.
That's the way to go.
I don't know, but I will tell you, in regards to Richie Rich, I used to watch that movie so much as a kid. I've never seen it as an adult, that my parents, for some godforsaken reason, let me choose the middle name of my little brother. And I chose Richie because of Richie Rich, and he's hated me ever since. So we're off on a great foot with that movie.
I love it. Yeah.
But yes, great idea. She gets 9.2 bill. She starts figuring out what to do with the money. And then we get this big meeting with Madeline and Sandy and Tom. And Sandy is basically a drug addict at this point. Things are starting to get a little out of hand, to be honest. They're getting pretty wild. We get this big parking lot meeting where Sandy confronts Max and Madeline are trying to explain the con. Tom shows up. All of this to say, Tom dies. Did you believe that Tom was dead? Because he's not really dead, and I thought that was a very poor decision in terms of storytelling, because I believed he was dead. And then I hate it when people are like, nah, not dead.
No, I rolled my eyes so far back in my head. I was like, come on, you guys. This is so dumb.
What are we doing?
All these people just happen to be there. Like, he's not dead. Like, this is insane. Just to step back though real quick, I do enjoy that they structured this as Sandy and not Sandra, because we learned at the beginning, when Sebastian Stan, like, what's your name? It's like, it's Sandy, or it's Sandra, but my friends called me Sandy. He's like, okay, Sandra. It's like, oh, so that's like, this is when she's Sandra. This is when she's like getting her training montage. This is when like she's like the con person, whatever. So I liked that this one was like, oh, it's Sandy. It's like she's like herself now, like who she really is. So I enjoyed that aspect of it. But yeah, no, there is zero moments in there where I was like, oh, he's really dead for sure. It's like, no, this is insane. Like, what is going on? How is she not understanding this is what's happening? Like, just to suddenly be like, all the money, send it to the thing. She's like, okay, yeah, whatever. It's like, dude, no, come on, like
I was like, dude, your lawyer, like legally speaking, there would have to be some clause that was like, cannot make this final decision, won't act until 48 hours later or something. Like there has to be a buffer, because of this situation.
Yeah, it really took a downhill turn for me here, where it's just like, oh, this like was ramping up so well for me, on the Julianne Moore reveal and stuff. I was like, I dig, like, where is this going? Because I think it also made sense if anyone has watched a kind of a thriller, almost like a whodunit thing. It's like, we're going to circle around to the first person we talk to. Like, that's just a basic story structure. So we're going to end up with Tom. And I think that's what got me. It's like, well, there's no way he's dead because like, we've got to wrap up with Tom. You're not like, he's the protagonist here for the most part. I know Sandra kind of is, but it's like, we know John Lithgow is really dead. So Tom's the only like pure person left here. And if he's actually dead, then we're just left with a bunch of dickheads, which is like, not to say that hasn't been done before, but this didn't feel like it was that level of a script. You know what I mean? That's like, no, like something's got to happen here where Tom turns out okay. So I think that's why I did not buy the like shot at all.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really buy it either. I was a little disappointed with how all of that ended up panning out. And then we get a big montage kind of connecting everything together. We get that final montage, which is really kind of a storytelling cheat of like, hey, we got so out of hand that we're going to give you a 90-second montage of how everything actually interlocks in case you didn't figure it out yourself. And I didn't really like that. I like the montage aspect, and I thought it was a little fun how they did show them like training with the gun and like slapping it away and stuff. But that whole time I was sitting there and I was like, this is kind of dumb. Like this, we really just didn't deliver on this. And it felt a little bit bummer. And then Sandy and Tom go to dinner like in the very beginning, and it just all happened, and that was that, I guess.
maybe on the second watch I'd pick up on stuff, but there was nothing in here. Like for me, the ultimate, and showing my cards here later on for our A1 acts, but like the best movie that did that was the Steven Soderbergh Ocean's 11, where it's like, as the reveal is happening at the end and you're discovering like, oh, they were never down there. It's a videotape and they're going down there now as the people who were collecting the money, like got it. But also all the montage leading up to that, all the training stuff makes sense. Like we see why they did all that. And this one is like the only hint that we get is when the John Lithgow's right-hand man is there and Julianne Moore is kind of freaking out. And Tom says something like, oh yeah, this is my dad's guy whenever we need something to be done. That's like the only hint that like, he's not necessarily like a great cop. He's just here if we need something to happen. But it's never suggested at all that like they're all kind of working together, which again is fine. Like I feel like weird between this and BEAU. Like I don't want stuff like handed to me, like and explained to me, but it also just cannot come out of complete nowhere. It's just like, oh, you guys are fucking like training and stuff like that. Like what is happening? This just seems so. It's just like a weird excuse of like, here's how it all happened. Okay, it doesn't feel earned, I guess, basically.
No, at all. And it does feel like the story kind of backed itself into a corner and was like, okay, we got to play this off somehow. Like, how do we backpedal and get out of this? I am totally going with, I'm gonna pick two things. My runner up is the AirPod needle drop because it just like is so great. As my runner up true cinema, but my actual true cinema moment, I'm curious if you're gonna pick the same thing, is Julianne Moore and Sebastian Stan and the reveal that they are a con team, and the exceptionally okay erotic thriller scene that we get for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I mean that's a fantastic scene. Mine follows that shortly after that, and it's mainly because the song has become such an earworm for me for the last 24 hours, where I have sung nothing but Dirty Laundry by Don Henley, you know, like that's the
Yeah.
song they play when they're in the bar together, all dancing. And so I've had nothing but Dirty Laundry like in my head, just on repeat. So for that, I'm making that my true cinema moment because it's fun to see them kind of celebrate the win and let loose and all that kind of stuff. Like I enjoy that aspect of it, but really that entire sequence from yours, from like the straddling kiss to the dancing in the bar, that segment there is like, take that out. That is A+ filmmaking. Like that is, that's the stuff where it's like, oh fuck, this is so well done. This is amazing. I love this. And then we just get into like Hallmark, like he shot himself. It's like, no, he didn't. He didn't shoot himself. Like, stop saying that, you know? So,
and there's the moment on the plane in the very end where Julianne Moore's character is like, rubbing out some blood that's on her, like the cuff of her shirt. And she's like, it's not blood. And he's like, Max is like, really? What is it? And she's like, I don't know, but it's not blood. And it's like, why? Why did we devolve to this really piss poor script and moment of reveals? Like, we had something so good, you know, cinema could have happened
together. But like, she's like, it's not blood. What could it be? You know, and to her credit, at first she thinks it's him having like double crossed her and stuff. It's like, okay. But also like the girl who was just with you has left the plane, which also is someone who worked at an airport for 15 years. Like you don't just get to get off the plane. You're like, I'm out of here.
She can't just run away. Like what would happen if that happened? Like loading up a plane and someone was like, I'm dipping. Are they getting taken down by security?
Honestly, that plane would never leave because, you know, the flight attendants would be like, hey, I have 49 bodies on board. It's like, oh, weird. I'm supposed to have 50.
Yeah.
And like, they would go on there and start, like, I know I'm digging into like the realistic details, but as someone who worked there for so long, that was also annoying. It's like, you don't just get to get off a plane. Like, that's not a thing, you know, but I don't know. I guess at that point, it was like not the worst thing that I had seen in the last 15 minutes. I'm like, all right, whatever, get off the plane. That's cool. Like, go for it.
You're going to let that fly?
Yeah, we'll let it fly.
Oh, we are on a roll right now. Okay, A1X.
Boeing plane. Boeing.
A1X, Sebastian Stan. We've got the MCU, Captain America, First Avenger, Winter Soldier, Ant-Man, Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and What If. Black Swan. Have I really not seen Black Swan in that long where I don't remember him being in that movie?
It's a pretty early credit, but I wanted to throw it on here just to talk about Black Swan because that's a great movie, but I think it's probably a pretty small role.
I know we do try to shoehorn in Black Swan pretty much whenever we can, and I like that about this pod. Yeah, you got to do it. The Martian, Logan Lucky, I, Tonya, Destroyer, The 355, Fresh, Pam and Tommy, and Sharper. I'm sure that you've got to go with MCU Sebastian Stan, right?
Yeah, I mean, I got to specifically, it's not hard, whatever. This is silly, but like, I think the best movie that the MCU has ever made is Winter Soldier. Having said that, like, I enjoy Civil War so much more, and we get to see kind of the funny side of Bucky with Falcon. You're like, can you move your seat up? And then like with Spider-Man, like, oh, your arm's metal. Like, I like what we get from Sebastian Stan more in that because he's not like the secret agent who's like mind melded. You know what I mean? So I enjoy Sebastian Stan more in Civil War, but honestly, any of those, like, he's solid and all that kind of stuff. Controversy aside of like getting the okay to make it or not, he's really good as Tommy Lee and Pam and Tommy. Like, it's a really good performance from him. It's good. And it's interesting because I was talking to Ashley about this as we were watching it. It's like, I feel like Sebastian Stan, like, he hasn't had the roles necessarily in phase one that like Chris Evans, Robert Downey, all of them had, but he's been there since phase one. Mm-hmm. And for me, he's the easiest one to separate from the MCU when I watch him in something. It's not always like, oh, hey, that's a Winter Soldier, you know, but it's like, if I watch Chris Evans in something, it's like, oh, it's Captain America. Cool. You know, it's just like, good luck hiding those muscles. You know what I mean? Like, that's why, you know, Ransom is in those big ass chunky sweaters in Knives Out, you know, it's like, and he does a good job there, but it's also, you can't help but see his physique. Whereas like, I don't know, Sebastian Stan, I think, does a good job of just like, he's not always Bucky Barnes, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I am going to agree with you. I am going to go with Civil War. I love that comedic side of him. I also think he's pretty good and fresh, really. I think he's a little bit unhinged, and he is pretty interesting, a little bit demented. I think he brings something fresh to his repertoire and his performance. Wow. I'm not going to say it's his best, but like, I just feel like it's a very Mark Ruffalo situation where it's like, man, if he wasn't in the MCU for 10 years, I'm sure he could have made some pretty damn good stuff. You know, like, yeah. I feel like he just maybe got eaten by the machine a little bit, and now we're coming out of that and chooses to make movies like Sharper. So I don't know. He is in a future coming A24 film, so we'll see. Maybe he's, you know, making this relationship with this studio.
And as someone who's very much looking forward to Barbie, watch I, Tonya if you haven't. He's really good in that too.
I need to.
So
it's been on my watch list like forever and ever.
Solid.
Julianne Moore. Here we go. Let's go through it. The Hand that Rocks the Cradle, The Fugitive. It's a fucking incredible movie. Lost World, Jurassic Park, Boogie Nights, Big Lebowski, Psycho, Magnolia, Hannibal, Evolution, The Hours, Children of Men, I'm Not There, Eagle Eye. Wow. I have not looked at this list. That's a throwback. Eagle Eye. Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah. This is a long list. I probably could have cut it down, but she deserves to be mentioned.
She needs all of it. A Single Man, The Kids Are All Right, Crazy Stupid Love, Don John, Still Alice, Hunger Games, Mockingjay 1 and 2, Kingsman, The Golden Circle, Dear Evan Hansen, When You Finish Saving the World, which we'll be covering here in a few weeks as well, and Sharper. She has been in a lot of things. I think she has 101 acting credits on IMDb.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's impressive. Yeah. You know, anytime Big Lebowski's on a list, I'm going to pick the Big Lebowski, like, as Maude. Like, she's fantastic in that. It is a smaller role in the movie, but it's also a very important role. And yeah, time I can talk about it, I will. So Big Lebowski's gonna be my pick.
Yeah, look, I'm in the same boat. Anytime Boogie Nights is on a list, it's getting picked. I don't care what the list is, it's going down. She plays Amber Waves in that movie, and it's just incredible. She is, again, a great mom figure, but she's actually a mom, kind of, in that movie. And so she just hits it out of the park with that one.
I will say, if we had been taking a bet on what you would have picked, I would have lost whatever amount of money we bet. Because there's a Ryan Gosling movie on here. It's like, there's no way he's not picking Crazy Stupid Love. Like, without a doubt, that's what he's going with. So
it's true.
I knew Boogie Nights would be number 2, but I thought for sure you were taking Gosling. But
yeah, you know, I got to pace myself because Barbie is coming out this summer, and I can't get too hyped on the Gosling train quite yet. I got to restrain. So
I like it.
You know, I'm already repping the Barbie here.
Yeah.
Last one of the A1 acts, con artist movies. This is a tried and true con artist movie here. Everybody's trying to con everybody, which might have been more fun, quite honestly, if like everybody was at each other's throats and everybody was a con artist. That might have been cool. Here we go. Here's the list. Now You See Me, I Care a Lot, Nightmare Alley, Focus, Paper Moon, Catch Me If You Can, A Fish Called Wanda, Ocean's 11, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, American Hustle, The Sting, Matchstick Men, 21, which, shout out, 21 is a great movie. I think that's fantastic. Whatever happened to Jim Sturgis? I don't really know. He was in Across the Universe, and then what?
That is not what I thought you were going to say. I thought you were about to say whatever happened to Kevin Spacey. I was like, listen, man, we cannot have that conversation on here.
Not here.
That's not okay.
Not now.
But yeah, Jim Sturgis, what's up, dude?
Wow, I've swerved on you twice right now.
It's like, oh God, is he really about to say this?
Trading Places, The Grifters, and White Men Can't Jump. Con artist movie. Look, it's hard not to go with Catch Me If You Can, strictly for the fact that the book that movie is based off of is also a lie. Like, he got found out to not actually have done a lot of those things. So it's a con artist movie about a con artist being a con artist is really kind of how it boils down. But like I said, I like 21. I like Blackjack. I think Counting Cards is cool. And I think that movie is, it's kind of hot and it's pretty good. And I just, what are you going to do? Like, it's one of those movies that I grew up with and I watched a lot, and it just holds that place in my heart where it's like, yeah, it's not great, but I love it.
Cool. I like that. I'm going off script here.
Whoa.
I'm not picking anything.
Who would have thought?
And actually, I'm doing a double feature here of con artist movies.
Whoa.
I am doing The Hustler and The Color of Money.
Wow.
2
heaters.
two heaters with Paul Newman playing the same character in both of them. The first one, he plays Fast Eddie. It's about pool sharks basically. And the first one is he's trying to take down the big pool shark, who's played by Jackie Gleason, and basically just drives himself crazy trying to beat him and all that kind of stuff. And then fast forward, I think 20 something years. And now he's like the wise elder person who is trying to train Tom Cruise to be like the pool shark. And Color of Money is fantastic. Scorsese film, one of the best. Talk about like cool diegetic scenes. Like we get the Werewolves of London with Tom Cruise, like dancing around the pool table, just like nailing shots. Like he's so good in that. So that's what I'm going with, The Hustler and The Color of Money.
All right. I got to book a double feature night. My wife's out of town this weekend with the girls, so I might end up doing it. And I get a Saturday all to myself. So I might just like wake up early and just start rolling through movies. My
birthday's coming up and I want you to watch Hannah and at least The Color of Money. That's what I want for my birthday.
All right. That'll be my birthday present to you. I'll solo pod on those and then I'll give them to you as a birthday present.
Perfect. I love
for
it.
you. Okay. What's our A24 ranking for Sharper? You gave a D24 to BEAU Is Afraid last week. I gave a C24, but I bumped it to a B24. What are you giving this film here?
I think nothing says exceptionally okay like a C24. You know what I mean? It's like it's literally the middle of the ground. Like
as okay as you can get.
It's not bad. It's just like it's exceptionally okay. So I'm giving this a C24.
I mean, there's some good moments in this movie where it's like, God, you had something good and you could have done it. I totally agree with you. I'm going with a C24 because, like we mentioned at the top of the pod, we're never going to think about this movie again. We're probably never going to watch it again. It's going to come and go. It'll eventually go off of streaming. Nobody will ever own it. It's, just kind of like it exists in the film echelon of movies, but like it is exceptionally okay. And I just want to bottle up a couple of those scenes and make a 100-minute banger with those scenes. You know what I mean?
Can you imagine if like we took our kind of combined true cinema moment of just like the reveal of him, all the way up to dancing at the pool hall or at the bar? It's like, if we show that to someone, you're like, hey, here's this movie. That's this has got to be like 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like Julianne Moore and Sebastian Stan just fucking conning people. Like I'm here for it 100%. And that's, so I think that's what we both wanted. It's
not
just,
what we got.
That's not what happened. But
yeah, that's true. Man, the world we could have lived in. Next week on the pod, I mentioned I am covering A Most Violent Night with Alden Diaz back on the podcast A Most Violent Year to talk about that movie. Ben, you mentioned it's your birthday. You're jetting off, dude. Where are you going for your birthday? Because I'm a little jealous.
I'm going to Japan. So I'm excited about that. I'm taking a 8-night cruise around the country, which should be kind of cool. So I figure that's the way to go. I'm not much of a karaoke person, but I think if I get enough sake in me, I think the birthplace of karaoke may get to witness a little bit of me. So
we need that for the Patreon. That's what we need. See Ben do drunk karaoke in Japan.
If you have any requests, throw them in the comments. Let me know. I'll be checking it while I'm on the ship. So
excellent, perfect. We will not be potting. Ben, you will not be potting from the boat. But you will be doing much cooler things. So we're gonna cover A Most Violent Year with Alden Diaz. Movie stars Jessica Chastain, Oscar Isaac, and it is a request from one of our listeners who placed third in the Oscar predictions that we did for the beginning of the year. Got to choose the topic of an episode, so that's what we're gonna do. I'm going to miss you, Ben, because you don't really like that movie, and I love it when you have to talk about movies you don't really like.
I mean, we've kind of been on a streak of that lately, it kind of seems like.
New listeners not going to be happy with you. I'm gonna just put that out there.
But I am excited actually to hear you guys talk about it, because that's one thing is like I enjoy people's takes that I disagree with, or that I just like, I don't share the same viewpoint. So I'm excited to hear you guys talk about it. It's going to be fun. I'm also curious for the people who are listening to this. Like, do you disagree with our takes on this? Did you love Sharper? If you haven't seen it, have we like intrigued you to watch it now and check it out? I hope so. There are scenes in here that are worth it, but don't go in expecting too much. But let us know what you thought of Sharper. We are on Twitter and Instagram at 24 minutes of A24. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can see us. You can see me lift up my Midsommar shirt as I talk about BEAU is Afraid.
It's their greatest YouTube thumbnail ever. It'll never be topped. It's like episode whatever, BEAU is Afraid. It's just you with your Midsommar shirt. It's incredible.
It's going to be hard to beat that. That's for sure. So check us out on YouTube and subscribe to us there so you can stay up to date with everything we're putting out. I am Ben Lawhorn.
And I am Ethan Simi. Spring break forever, bitches.